Okay, no, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me. No, listen, I don't care what you say. It is not Buzz Lightyear. He is not Buzz Lightyear. No, you want to see Buzz Lightyear? This is Buzz Lightyear. He is a Star Command hero. That other guy, that is not Buzz Lightyear. Yeah, okay, fine. Well, you know what? He's not my Buzz. Hashtag not my Buzz. Okay, yeah, I heard it too. Anyway, let's just move on. Anyway, welcome to Teacup for One. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees. We have something very important to talk about today, everyone. Buzz Lightyear is now meeting guests in Disneyland. And I know you might say, Matt, that's not news, but oh no, it is. Because it's not that Buzz Lightyear. No, it's that Buzz Lightyear. Yeah, so, turning a lot of heads. Just like that. So today, I wanted to discuss everything. I wanted to discuss the thought floodgates that Buzz showing up in the parks opened for me. And now, before I get going with this video, I do want to say that I am going to be, ruining some Disney magic in this video. So if you are a younger viewer, and you don't want the Disney magic ruined, watch another video. I have lots of other videos. But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit behind the scenes here. So, Disney magic, spoiler warning, done. There we go. Oh, and actually, before I move into the video, I would like to give a very special shout out to today's video sponsor. Once again, it's me, sponsoring my own video, because I can. Today's video is sponsored by the Teacup for One t-shirt tea-shop, where you can get delightful shirts like this. The one that says, Walt would be rolling in his grave. I thought that was appropriate for today's video. All the store info in the description down below. If you want to know, the info's there. I'm not going to bore you. So, here we go. Today, I want to talk about this. The choice to introduce Buzz Lightyear into the parks as a face character. Again, I'm going to be spoiling a lot of Disney magic. That's like the 3rd time you've been warned. Here we go. Now, if you have been visiting the Disney parks for any length of time, I feel like we know that there's a very distinct line in the sand between the 2 types of character meet and greets that exist. There are face characters, and there are fur characters, for lack of a better term. But really, anytime we say fur character, I'm talking about a character that is in a head and has a mascot type body. Basically the characters that can't talk, they communicate mostly just through gestures. So those are characters like Mickey Mouse, like Minnie Mouse, Donald, Goofy. Pretty well anytime that it's an animal character, they're going to be a fur character. But sometimes there are human-esque or humanoid characters that are also fur or mascot-esque. One of those, over the last 20-ish, if not more years, famously being the Toy Story characters, specifically Buzz Lightyear. But the reason that this is so jarring is because it's the first time we've seen Buzz Lightyear make the transition from fur character into face character. And face character, I think, pretty self-explanatory. That's any time that you have a character who is, not in a headpiece, who is flesh and blood, and you can talk and interact with. I think the most famous face characters are probably the Disney princesses, but then you also have a lot of other fun face characters to interact with, like Gaston, for example. I can't think of others off the top of my head. Oh wait, yes I can. Buzz Lightyear. So in trying to figure out why face character Buzz made me so irrationally angry, I fell down a very deep rabbit hole on the Disney wiki of all of Disney parks past character meet and greets, and it just got me to wondering, what is it that informs Disney and makes Disney think, okay, we're going to present this character as face but this character as fur? And it actually inspired today's video, where we're going to be looking at Matt's top 7 weirdest character meet and greets in the face versus fur debate. The title's still a work in progress. Now, I want to make it very clear before we get into the list that anytime I'm being critical, it's of the decision-making process on, I guess it's the Imagineering side. It's never a criticism of the specific performers, because I think anyone who is a Disney character performer, they have my utmost respect. They're the ones who are bringing the magic into the parks, and sometimes when they're given challenging things to work with, like this poor guy who has to be face character Buzz, I know you're doing your absolute best. This video is not against you. It's against the people who decided one day, you're not going to play Flynn Rider today. You're playing Buzz Lightyear. Okay, let's get into the list. Matt's top 7 Weird choices that Disney has made in face versus fur. Here we go. Number 7, the Queen of Hearts. Disney's Queen of Hearts, much like Buzz Lightyear, is another character that has existed in both face and fur form. Yeah, she's another character that had a very successful run as a costumed, masked character. No one asked for her to be a face character, but then one day, for again a special event, she was. I believe her face character debut was at Club Villain at Disney's Hollywood Studios. She also performed at a cabaret, which I think was at Disneyland. Maybe it was as recent as last Halloween season. So she was in a cabaret and she performed Everything's Coming Up Roses from Gypsy, which was definitely a choice. And I actually don't hate it. I think that's kind of a stroke of brilliance. When I see face character Queen of Hearts, I don't hate it. I think it's engaging. I think it's a lot of fun. But this is the issue. I think of her almost as a character totally independent from Disney's animated classic. And this is something we're going to see a lot throughout this list, is that I think the animated Queen of Hearts is one of those characters that just can't be embodied by a human being. I mean, when you look at the stylization in her animation, her physicality is bigger than life. The way that she can open her mouth just to bellow off with their heads, that strikes a level of fear into my childhood and even my adult heart that no human being can accomplish. And the other thing, which I do think is a big decision-making factor when it comes to portraying certain characters as face versus fur, the other thing is that the Queen of Hearts has such a distinct voice. She has this growly, visceral quality to her voice when she says off with her heads that no person could really be expected to do on a regular basis. And I think that's why when you see videos of performers playing the Queen of Hearts, they've adopted a new vocal quality, which absolutely works for the character of the Queen of Hearts, but it's not evocative of Disney's Queen of Hearts. And really, isn't that the point of meeting a character in Disney World? They're supposed to feel like they came out of the film. When you see the Queen of Hearts as a face character, great character, but to me it doesn't feel like she came out of the film. And I'm really not sure why they made the choice to introduce her as a face character. I know it was a special event kind of thing, but it does go hand in hand with an observation that I've made. For the most part, I find that almost all Disney female villains appear in the parks as face characters, with a few exceptions, whereas most male Disney villains appear in the parks as masked characters, again, with a few exceptions. Which brings me to number 6. Judge Claude Frollo from the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, going back to what I said literally 3 seconds ago, I think it's fascinating that almost all male Disney villains are portrayed as masked characters. I think a part of that has to do with what I was saying we lost out on when the Queen of Hearts became a face character, because when you have a masked character, you can present the character in real life almost identical to what they look like in the animated films. But I think that applies to characters that have more defined features, features that most human faces can't replicate. Like Captain Hook with the elongated chin and those amazing eyebrows, fantastic. Or Hades, another great example. Or who's the guy from Pocahontas, Governor Ratcliffe. But when it comes to Judge Claude Frollo, there's nothing that special about his character design. It is a frail, old man. It's like the most generic old guy you could possibly have. There's no reason they couldn't just get an actor, put him in Frollo's robes, and call it a day. The only reason that I can really think of is that it's probably better if Frollo is not able to talk. If you just take that out of the equation for a Frollo character meet and greet. I know we haven't had them in a long time, but when the movie came out, Frollo meet and greets, I'm pretty sure, were a thing. And by putting him in a masked character, it meant that you didn't have to have a face character trying to carry on a conversation as Frollo. And I think this just goes hand in hand with the problem or the complication that surrounds Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame. When you think of other interactions with Disney villains, they're fun and fantastical. So you talk to Maleficent, for example, and it's oh, I'm going to curse the princess. You talk to the evil queen, and then she has this whole attitude of, well, Snow White will not be the fairest of them all much longer. Bah ha 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 ha. If you were to talk to a Frollo face character, that interaction would be something like, You seem impure. We're going to have to persecute you. There was really no way to win in bringing Frollo as a meet and greet character. It's probably for the best that he's, like, in the Disney vault. Okay, moving on. Number 5, Miguel from Coco. Now, Miguel has appeared in Disney parks, to my knowledge, kind of in 2 forms. One was as this beautifully crafted puppet that I believe was part of a Coco-inspired musical celebration. But of course, it's a puppet. So even kids would see the puppet and would know, like, this is more of a performance piece than a meet and greet. But then we have masked Miguel, which is more of a traditional Disney fur character meet and greet style costume. So we have the beautifully sculpted head and then a nice outfit to match. But the thing with that is that I find, just by looking at pictures, maybe if I met him in person I'd feel differently, but I don't feel like I would. I think the proportions are totally off. Disney's kind of weird when it comes to presenting characters in the parks that are literally children. Usually, they go for characters who are in some kind of masked costume. Specifically, I'm thinking of Lilo and Sophia the First, as well as Miguel. And obviously, you can't have an actual child running around the parks embodying these characters because hashtag child labor laws. But then the trade-off is that you get really big and kind of scary costume characters who are supposed to be small children. But now they're giants. It's weird. This is why I've never had a picture taken with Lilo. She scares me. Number 4. Pixar characters. Like, all of them. All the humans. With the exception of Merida, and I think possibly Linguini from Ratatouille, who might just be like a one-off special event type of character, almost every single human Pixar character is meetable in the parks as a masked/costumed character. Now, with the exception of Edna Mode, I don't think we have a situation like with Frollo or with the Queen of Hearts, where these are characters that can't necessarily be portrayed effectively as face characters. Like, just when you think of the Incredibles family, I think those would be perfectly charming characters to be able to meet and interact with because they are just humans in superhero costumes. When I think of Carl from Up, that's another character that you could very easily just have a face character meet and greet with. I think they go for the masked look with Pixar characters because Pixar characters, again, have a very distinct animated style to them. So, especially considering that in the past few years, meet and greets have really become a giant photo op, it's a lot more magical, probably for most guests, to be able to meet these characters that look like they jumped straight out of our favorite Pixar films. I almost think, like, the look of their faces is 50% of the character magic. Because if you were to take that away, like, just think of The Incredibles as a perfect example. As much as I would love to be able to have a face-to-face interaction with the Incredible family, if you take away that beautiful stylized look in their faces, you really just have boring people in jumpsuits. There's nothing that magical about a generic human wearing a very simple outfit. That strips away some of the magic, which is a perfect segue into number 3, the Marvel Cinematic Universe characters, most of which are meetable at Disney's Avengers campus in Disney's California Adventure. Now, this, I think, might have been one of the boldest moves that Disney made when it came to presenting meet and greet characters in the parks, because the Marvel Cinematic Universe is so ingrained in pop culture and it is so closely tied with the celebrity casting. The thing that they really have in their favor are the superhero costumes. I mean, I think just being able to meet characters who are inherently masked because that's part of their outfit, like being able to meet Mr. Knight, being able to meet Black Panther, anyone who has a mask, that is meet and greet gold. But to go back to what I just said about The Incredibles, the simpler a costume gets, I think the more aware we become of how different the face performer is to the actor from the movie. Perfect example, Loki. Something Disney has done that I actually quite like and think is brilliant is that when you have a show like a Marvel show on Disney+, they've had a tendency to introduce characters from the episodes into the parks coinciding with the episodes. So something brilliant that they did, well, kind of brilliant that they did last year, was that they had Loki appearing in Disney's California Adventure in whatever outfit Loki was wearing in that week's episode of Loki. And when they announced that they were going to be doing this, they released this promo video. And at first, it was Loki in his classic Asgardian look. And just when you see that performer in that outfit, like, at least me, I am sold on it. I think that is a fantastic costume. That actor looks exactly like Tom Hiddleston. But then, they strip away the Asgardian Loki costume and he is in his TVA jumpsuit. Same performer, but all of a sudden, because the costume has been so simplified compared to what we saw previously, this guy no longer looks exactly like a dead ringer for Tom Hiddleston as Loki. We accept that he's Loki because Disney's telling us that he's Loki, but like our hearts don't believe it. So the big takeaway here is that the simpler a costume is for a meet and greet character, the harder it is for us to accept them in our hearts as that character. Speaking of Loki, let's move into number 2. This is a category I am going to call, inspired by Loki, variants, or alter egos. Now, when I say variants, it's not uncommon for Disney to, as we all know, release remakes or live-action remakes of their classic animated films. And this presents an interesting challenge when it comes to how to portray those characters in the parks. Around this time last year, we had the Emma Stone Cruella film debut, and then that version of Cruella was a meetable character at Disney's California Adventure for the Oogie Boogie Bash. Now, as far as I know, Cruella, like animated Cruella, is a pretty consistent character that you can meet at Disneyland. And I think this might have been one of the first times that Disney, like on the same day, was giving people an opportunity to meet 2 versions of the same character. And anyone who knows a little bit about how Disney character interactions work knows that there's this whole philosophy and this whole belief that we like play into and buy into, that there is only one version of any given character. You know? Like, there's only one Mickey Mouse. There's only one Cruella DeVille. That's why Disney character performers can't say, I play so-and-so. They have to say, I'm friends with whoever, because it's just maintaining this illusion that there is only one version of that character. But with Cruella, we had 2 Cruellas. Like, those are 2 variants that just shouldn't coexist, but in the Disney parks, they do. Speaking of things that shouldn't exist, let's move on to the number 1 weirdest choice that Disney parks have made when it comes to presenting a meet and greet character. I feel like some of you knew this was coming. It's none other than Jessica Rabbit. The infamous, meetable Jessica Rabbit. I don't know when this character was available to meet in the American parks. I think the last time she was cited was probably Disneyland Paris. Again, I didn't do very much research for this video. I just know that this exists, and it shouldn't. And my whole stance on Jessica Rabbit as a meetable character is that it just shouldn't be a thing. Jessica Rabbit should not be available to meet as a character in the parks. And no, it's not for the reasons you think. It's not because I'm a prude. It's because having Jessica Rabbit in the parks negates her entire existence as a toon. So many people, like the criticism that I've seen over and over of this Jessica Rabbit costume is, why didn't they just have her as a face character? The answer, because you can't. Jessica Rabbit, by her nature in the film, is a cartoon.
I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
She's not flesh and blood. That is her being. So I understand and respect why they made the choice to have this terrifying bodysuit, because it's the closest they could get to having an animated character come to life. And Jessica is the most clear-cut example in my mind of why certain characters just can't exist as meetable characters in the park. Because the whole point of meeting a character in the park is to just continue the illusion, is to like immerse you into the fantasy of this world come to life. If you're going to give me something that takes me out of that fantasy, like how terrifying this Jessica Rabbit is, then that's kind of counterintuitive to the magic that the character meet and greets are trying to present me with. Which brings us back to what started this video. Why face character Buzz just makes me so confused and so angry. To cycle back to some of the things we talked about, first of all, it's a normal person in a relatively simple costume. Much like TVA Loki in the jumpsuit, the only reason we accept him as Buzz is because Disney is telling us to accept him as Buzz. The only visual clue that we have to connect this guy to Buzz Lightyear is the fact that it says Lightyear on his astronaut outfit. Another thing that's kind of weird is I'm pretty sure that this guy is using his own hair. It's very rare for that to happen when it comes to character meet and greets. Almost every single face character is wearing some kind of wig, and it's a small detail, but I think it's one that definitely immerses you more in that level of fantasy. If we don't have that level of fantasy with this face character, once again, it just looks like a guy who's in an astronaut suit. And as we established with Pixar characters, like 50% of the visual appeal of Pixar characters is the design in their facial structure. Because more often than not, Pixar human characters are dressed relatively normally. And if you want to look at them and instantly know that, yes, that is a Pixar character, you need to have that stylization in the face. And the other reason that it's just weird is because we already have a meetable Buzz Lightyear. The Buzz Lightyear that has been in the parks for years on end. There's that discrepancy all of a sudden that makes you question, like, who is this? And how is he different from that other Buzz Lightyear? And the fact that I'm asking all of these questions means that I'm not focusing on the magic of getting to meet the character. And I think it all boils down to the thing that Disney strives for with these character meet and greets, which is character integrity. And it's a term that I've heard thrown around a lot over the years, but it was really digging into like my very lazy research for this video that I came to appreciate the importance of character integrity. Because I feel like character meet and greets should be the easiest, most magical thing in the Disney parks. It shouldn't be something you have to think about. You should just see the characters and all of a sudden think, there they are. They stepped out of the film. And I think there's a lot of thought and care and consideration that needs to go into every element of the Imagineering to make that happen. And yes, I totally get that this is meant to be an extension of this whole idea that Disney is trying to push on us, that Lightyear in the film Lightyear is meant to be the action hero that inspired the toy that Andy got that we saw in Toy Story. Like, I get that. That makes sense to me. Logically. It doesn't make sense to me in my heart when I look at this character meet and greet. The one thing that I think Disney could have done to make this meet and greet work would be giving Buzz Socks the cat. Like, just that little bit of added extra whimsy. If he was just holding Socks the cat and maybe Socks the cat is like powered off or sleeping, just adding that little splash of color, that little splash of whimsy would maybe be enough to differentiate him as Lightyear from Lightyear and to allow him to come into his own as his own character. But right now I see this, and to me it feels like Buzz is naked. Because you can put Lightyear on his outfit, but I'm really just seeing a guy in a suit who's not holding a robot cat. So Disney, if you see this video, my one request, either go back to classic Buzz or give this cast member a raise and Socks the cat. And with that, friends, this concludes yet another episode of Teacup 41. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think is the weirdest choice Disney has made for presenting a character meet and greet in the parks? And if you want to be the first to know when I release more videos talking about Disney parks, or just Disney, movies, Shakespeare, most importantly, cats, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And if you haven't subscribed already, it is so easy. All you have to do is click on my face. Thanks for joining me again today, everyone. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and that's the Teacup for 1. Give us Socks the cat.